Hi everyone, it's Shar here, and today I'm going to be decorating this little composition book. I got this little book in a pack of 2 at Target for about $1, I believe. And I've traced it out on a piece of scrap cardstock and I stamped out my idea of what I'm going to do. So I'm going to be using Critters in the Dog Park today, and I'm going to be using the matching die to go with it. I'm also going to be using the little clouds from Blue Skies, and they have matching dies as well. And then I'm going to use the little word bubble from A Birdie Told Me and the matching die that goes with it too. I'm also going to be using some paper from the Daphne's Closet collection. I'm going to be using a little green piece from the Petite paper pack with a small pattern, and then the blue piece is actually a scrap from a 12 by 12 sheet. And I'm going to use washi to cover up the binding. This has a nice black binding, so you don't really have to do this, but I wanted it to have an interesting, fun pattern to go on it. Sometimes if you find some sort of book, maybe not a composition book, but something to cover that has a pattern or something, you might need to do this to make it look the way you want to match your papers. So I put a piece on the front, and then I put a piece on the back, and then I'm going to put a piece down the spine and overlap it over the front and back pieces. I'm not paying much attention to lining this up, not lining the polka dots up, because I'm actually going to put a second layer, which with this black tape you don't really have to do, but I kind of want a nice thick binding on it. You can see there that I'm trying to line up the polka dots on the front side at least. And you might have to do multiple layers if you're trying to cover up some sort of pattern. So just keep that in mind. And once I've got those layers on there, I'm just going to use the edge of my notebook as a guide and take my scissors and trim off that excess tape. Now once I have that kind of trimmed off, I will take my sanding block and I will go across those edges, being sure to pull down from the cover and making it nice and smooth and kind of more blended with the edge of that notebook. I'll do the same with my paper later on. And now that I've got it all on there, I'm going to burnish it with my bone folder just to make sure that tape's really good and stuck down. So I need to measure what I want for the front. I want a little bit of that tape to show, so I'm going to measure from the outside in. And it's actually going to be 3 inches wide. So I'm going to cut my paper to be 3 inches wide. And then I'm going to measure how tall it needs to be, and it's about 4.5. So I'm going to cut those pieces down. So now I have 2 pieces that perfectly fit on the front of this cover. Now a little trick to keep track of where's the front and the back. I'm going to take a pencil and just put a little F on the inside of the front and a little B on the inside of the back. It's kind of obvious on this one because there's a nice wide margin at the top, but it's not always obvious in every notebook you have. So I'm going to put some adhesive and make sure I put it right along the edge on all 4 sides. Now this adhesive comes out in a wide tape that's not really broken, so I have a couple places where it kind of overlapped, and I can just fold that tape over so that it's on the inside and it doesn't show. I'm going to put some more adhesive down the middle too so that I have lots of adhesion between the piece of paper and the cover of the composition book. And the best way, I think, to line this up is to stack it on a tabletop or your desk, just like you would a stack of cards or some paper. Line up the bottom, and then you can go from there. And now you can just take your scissors and trim off those corners, assuming your composition book you have has rounded corners. Now once I put that other piece on, I had a little bit that overlapped, so I'm just running my craft knife along the edge and shaving off that little piece that stuck out. And now I'm going to take that sanding block and do the same thing I did with the tape and sand it down. Always be sure to pull downwards from the cover down and not up, because that will push your paper away from the cover of the notebook and you don't want it to let go. So here's that green piece, and I have a ragged edge right here. So in order to kind of save my paper and save a nice big piece to use later, I'm going to cut off that ragged edge, and I made sure I cut it wide enough to where I can use this wide piece that's left over. Use that flat edge and cut it to 3 inches wide. So now it's the same width as my notebook. And I can just line it up. And I'm going to look at my plan here, kind of look at the little hill I drew for the dog to sit on. And I'm just going to take a pencil and sketch that out on the front of this piece of paper. Very lightly, so it's easy to erase. So I can trim that out with my scissors and then easily go back in with an eraser and erase whatever pencil line is left. Now I'm using some different adhesive that has little dots because this is a smaller piece of paper, but I can make sure I have it on all the sides so I have good adhesion. And once I put that on, I'll just trim off that corner again. So now it's time to do some stamping and coloring, and I'm just going to speed this up so you can see everything in process. Just some finishing touches, and here you have our final project. Have an amazing day. Bye.